Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dish Divider webinar for August 2014. This project was created by Rita Gazard and presented by myself, Mark Garretts. I'm a Floriani National Educator, and with all of our projects I like to show you what it's going to look like before we get started. So this is what it looks like. It's a dish divider designed to go between dishes so that they don't scratch each other or break when you're moving, or if you have an RV, or just they're very delicate dishes. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to get started with the software portion of this lesson. As always, we're going to start by clicking on the new icon here to get a new workspace. We're going to go and set up our ruler. Now normally when we quilt we are usually in inches, but for this particular project we are going to work in metric. So to switch to metric, all you do is right click on the ruler bar and click metric, and we're in metric mode, and you can tell because the ruler switched to metric. Next we're going to go up to our tools menu and click on general options, and we're going to go click on our grid icon. We want to make sure that snap to grid is off, and the rest of the settings don't matter. We're going to come down to our digitizing section here and just double check that we're in simple draw mode. If you haven't changed it from the default, you should be, but if you're not, send it back to simple draw mode and then click OK. Alright, and then next we're going to select our block to work on. We're going to come up here and select the block by clicking on the select block icon. For this one we're going to use a mariner's compass, and we're going to click on mariner's compass here. We're going to scroll down a little bit to find Dresden plate 05. So it's right here. So we're going to click on Dresden plate 05 and click OK. Alright, and then what we want to do is we want to deselect this plate, so we want to click off of it. So anywhere on the screen that you're not on the plate, just go ahead and click off of it. We're now going to edit the block, and we're going to begin by deleting the parts of the block that we just don't need. So we're going to come up here with our cursor. We're going to place it just below the ruler bar at about 110 millimeters. So right here we want to make sure that we are above the design, and we're just going to drag a box over to about 0 and all the way down to the bottom, so right about there, and we're going to go ahead and click it, and that's going to select these quadrants here, and we're going to click our cut icon to delete it, and so that is going to leave a partial block. We're going to basically repeat the same thing with the other side. So we're going to start over here right about -10, and we are going to click and drag to the right and select everything over on the right hand side. Now because we're not fully selecting those pieces in the middle, we aren't going to select those, and in fact we don't want those pieces, so that's why we're doing it this way. And then we're going to come and click our cut icon again to delete it. And this leaves us with sort of a clock hand looking thing, and we're going to turn this into our dish divider. And so the next thing we're going to do is in our sequence view we want to find 451, which is this one right here in our sequence view, and we're going to temporarily hide that color. So we're going to click right here on the eye to hide it. So that's actually going to hide our center bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to select the entire top petal by clicking and dragging a box around both parts. Okay, so we're going to come up here to the left of it, click and drag a box around both parts, let off our mouse, and we've selected the top. We are going to right click on it, and we are going to get a little menu that pops up, and we're going to create an outline around it. That's going to bring up a little dialog box with a default distance in millimeters. We're going to set that to 0, so just type a 0 over it, and we're going to say OK. And that's going to create an artwork outline that goes all the way around that particular set of petals. And we're going to do this once again for the bottom set of petals. So again, we're going to come up to the left of it and above it, drag a box all the way around it to select it all, right click on it, click Create Outline, set our distance to 0, and then type OK. And now we have two artwork outlines. So we're going to go over to our sequence view now, and we're going to click on color number 9, which should be the first thing in your sequence view. So we're going to click on that one, and now we're going to also select color number 10, and we want them both selected. So to do that, we're going to hold down the Control key and click on color number 10, which is the next item. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and that basically is going to select the outlines of the petals that have the break in them here, and we're going to delete those actually. So we're going to come up to our cut icon one more time and click delete. And what you can see when we do that is it leaves us with a outline of what the petal shape was, but gets rid of the split in the petals there. So that's a pretty cool technique for creating something like that. What we're going to do now is we're going to change the width of some things. So we're going to come over to our sequence view, and we're going to click All Items, and we are going to come up to our transform box here and click the transform icon. If your software is set up to not show icons, it'll have the word transform there. Now we want to turn off our maintain aspect ratio. So make sure this is unchecked. And we're going to increase our width to 140% of the value that's there. So over here in our percent, we're going to select the width and type in over it 140. You can also use the up arrow, but it's 40 clicks, so typing it is easier. And then we're going to click Apply. And that's just going to stretch our shape out. And we're doing it that way so we stretch it out evenly on both sides. And it's going to be still automatically selected after that, and we want to make a copy of it. So we're going to come up here to our copy icon and click copy, and then we're going to paste a copy right on top of it by clicking the paste icon. So now we've got two copies, and your sequence view should look like this over here. We're going to click on our transform box once again, and now we are going to rotate this 60 degrees. So we're going to come in here and we are going to rotate it. Now it's a little hard to see on your screen, but the copy that we just made is all that's selected. So what we're going to rotate here is just our copy. So we're going to click Apply, and now we've got another part of our box. So our dish divider. So now it looks like this. We're going to copy and paste again. So this time we're going to click Copy and Paste, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to come up to our Rotate and our Transform. We're going to type in 60 degrees, and we are going to click Apply, and that now basically completes our dish divider outline, at least. So we've got all of the petals of it now. So to recap, we took one, we copied it, pasted it, took the copy, rotated it 60 degrees, repeated it, rotated it 60 degrees again to end up with the design that we have. What we're going to do now is come back over to our sequence view, and we're going to unhide the color 451, the light tan that we hid in the first step. So we're going to just click the eye one more time to allow us to see it. So when that is still selected, we are going to come back to our transform box, and this time we're going to check our maintain aspect ratio because we want to apply this to both sides to make the circle change perfectly. And what we're going to do is we're going to increase it a little bit so that you can see right in here these lines don't quite get caught by the edge of the circle. So by bringing it up to 110%, we're going to type in 110, click Apply. Now the circle overlaps our petals perfectly. Okay, so we're now going to create an outline that goes all the way around this, which is what we're going to use to generate our applique. And we are going to select all items, and then we are going to right click over here, and we are going to say create outline. Again, we're going to set our distance to 0, and we're going to say OK. and that is going to create another piece of artwork down here at the bottom. It should be index number 9 that goes all the way around. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of that. So we are going to click copy, and then we're going to paste it right over it. We now have sequence number 10 automatically selected. We want to stitch that out first because it's going to become both our placement line and our tack down line. So we're going to use our move to back button right here to move it all the way to the back. So that's going to make it stitch out first. And while that is selected, we are going to copy and paste it. So now we have two. We're going to click on the very first one, and we're going to change that to a run stitch. And then we're going to click on the second one, and we're going to change that one to a run stitch. Unlike the first run stitch, which we didn't do anything with, which will become our placement line, we want our tack down line to have a little bit different set of properties. First of all, we want it to have a little bit shorter stitch length, so we're going to change it to 2.5, and that just gives it a little better ability to hold the fabric down. We're also going to change it from a standard to a 2-ply, which means it's going to run all the way around, stop, and run all the way back. So that's going to give us a little bit more thread to hold our batting and our fabrics in place while we trim them. We also need to change the color. So we're going to go ahead and click apply here to apply those changes. And we are going to come down here now and right click on color number 2, which is red, to change the color. And what that's going to do for us is it's going to tell our machine to stop when it sees the extra color. So it's going to sew down our placement line and then our tack down line. We now need to add the satin stitch that goes around to complete our applique, and we're going to use this artwork down here, number 11, to do that because it's yet again a copy of what we just did, that outline, but it's in the proper place to stitch out. We need a steel stitch to go all the way around here, or a satin stitch, so we're going to use the steel stitch. So we're going to click on steel. It's going to generate a steel stitch all the way around the edge of the design. That's a little bit thin for an applique, so we're going to come up here, we're going to change it to 5. So we're going to change it to 5, and we are going to click apply. So that's going to change the width on our steel from 3 millimeters to 5 millimeters, just to give us a little thicker stitch width there. In the sequence view, we're going to come and select all items, and now we're going to rotate them once. And we're going to rotate them 45 degrees. And when we click that, we're going to do that by clicking on the rotate right icon right here. And the reason that we're really doing that is to make it a little bit easier to fit in the 8-inch hoop. So in order to complete that process, we're going to come over here to the transform icon, and we are going to change the size. Right now it's at 203, and we're going to change it to 200. So we're going to type in 200 to fit in our 8-inch hoop and click apply. So that's going to make a pretty minimal change in the width, but if we didn't do that, when you tried to load it at the machine, it said it wouldn't fit in the hoop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this on our machine. We're going to come up here and click our File, Save, or we could click the Save icon up there. So we're going to save it. We're going to come up here to our MDQ project directory. We're going to save it in the August directory. We don't yet have an August directory in here, so I'm going to actually just go ahead and create one. I'm going to type in August, A-U-G-U-S-T, and I'm going to open it, and I'm going to save it as Dish Divider. Okay, and I'm going to save that file. Now you can stop here if you want, and you can go ahead and save it in your machine format and stitch this out, and all will be fine. But in our next step for a more advanced lesson, we're actually going to go ahead and decorate this with some quilting stitches here in the middle. So that'll be our next section. Okay, now as I just mentioned, this next section is optional, and this is where we're going to actually add some decoration to this in the form of some advanced stippling or quilting stitches to give our dish divider just a little bit more interest. If you don't want to do this step, again, it's totally optional, but it's kind of fun. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click all items to select everything, and we're going to rotate it back to the orientation that we started out in so that when we apply these patterns they end up in the right direction. So we're going to rotate left by clicking our rotate left 45 degrees. Don't forget we rotated right to get to where we were, so rotate left takes us back. What we're going to do now is we are going to click off the design first, and then we're going to click and drag a box around the top petal. So just drag it somewhere around the top petal, and it's actually going to select the artwork that's there. We could have also done that by clicking on the very first artwork, but to make sure we get the right one, we're going to go ahead and use the click and drag method. And what we're going to do now is we're going to apply some advanced stippling to it. So we're going to do that by clicking our advanced stippling icon. You can use any pattern that you like, but for this example we're going to use the pattern named Kiss. So we're going to scroll down and find that one. I went past it. Where did it go? Looking for K, Kiss. Here we go. So I'm going to click on Kiss, and that takes that outline that was originally there from the quilt block, and we're going to use that now as our quilting or stippling stitches. We want to control where the stitching starts and stops, so we're going to show you how we do that now using the shape tool. So you're going to come up here to our shape tool, which is over on the left toolbar. Click on that, and it's going to give us a little bit different view. You can see there's a green dot here and a red dot here, and you can see a black dot here, and you can see some black or dark blue squares right here. We aren't going to change the outline, which is what these nodes are for, but what we are going to do is change the start and stop points. So I'm going to change the green one, which is our start, down to this node down here. So I'm just going to click and drag it down there, and I'm just going to put it right over the top of it and let up the mouse. I'm going to click and drag the red one to the other side, and just that easy, we've changed where our start and stop points are. So I'm going to go back and select it normally again by clicking the select tool, and I'm going to make a copy of that and paste it again. You can see that we're using this copy and paste technique a lot in this project to save having to re-enter things over and over again. So we're going to click copy and paste, and now we want to rotate it so it fits over here, and that happens to be a minus 60-degree rotation. So I'm going to come over here to transform and type in minus 60, and we're going to click apply, and that's going to rotate it. It doesn't automatically put it over there, but we're just going to click and drag and sort of get it lined up and put it there. It doesn't have to be exact because these stitches, the ends of where the stitch is going to be covered by our steel stitch, so it really doesn't matter all that much. So the next thing we're going to do is repeat that process to come down here, and we're going to again make a copy and a paste, and we're going to come to our transform, and again we're going to put in minus 60, and we're going to click apply, and it's going to rotate that one, and we're going to bring it down into position here. Now these three over here are a mirror image of what's here, so we're going to go ahead and just copy and paste all these together and put them over here all at once. To do that, I want you to come over to the sequence view, click on the very first one, hold down the control key and click on the second one, hold down the control key and click on the third one. That selects them all. We're going to copy and paste, and this time our transform wants to be minus 180 degrees because we're basically going to flip it. So we're going to come in here and say minus 180, and we're going to click apply, and that's going to rotate them around so they're in the proper position. We're going to drag them all together over and drop them into place. So we've got all of our petals done. All that remains to do is the center. So we're going to come over here to our sequence view, and we're going to click on Floriani color 451, which is the light tan. It's color number 11 in the index. And what we're going to do is come back to our advanced stippling one more time. We're going to convert that to advanced stippling, and we are going to this time pick the pattern called X. So I'm going to come down here and find the one named X, which is this one right here, and select OK. And we are going to just create a little bit of a border around it. So we're going to click on that one more time. To select it, we're going to right click. We're going to say create border, and we are going to click on the 451 tan one more time. So we are going to reduce this a little bit. We're going to come up to our properties, click on transform, and we are going to make sure that maintain aspect ratio is selected, and we're going to type in 90 to come down 90% and click apply, and that's going to make it fit in where we want just a little bit better with a nice little border around it. While that one is still selected, we want that one to be the same color as the rest of our stippling, so we're going to come over here to our color menu, and that's color number 1, the deep blue. So we're going to right click on it, and now all of these items are together. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click all items one more time, because now we want to rotate it right one more time in order to get back into position for our hoop so it will all fit in the hoop. We've already resized it, so we don't need to worry about that, but now all of our stitches are running in the directions that we want them. All the start and stop points are in the right place, and this is what it's going to be like. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this one more time. So we're going to click File, Save, and it should come up and save it over the top of what our previous one was, because this is going to be our final project. If we wanted to save it as a separate project, we kind of come up here and click File, Save As, and would allow us to name it something else. But we're just going to go ahead and keep this whole project all together, so I'm not going to do that. But what you do want to do now is you want to save it one more time in your machine format. So you want to come up here and click File, Save As. We're going to pick a different format this time, like for example, let's select the Viking VP3 format, and we will click Save, and it will save it in that format for our Viking machine. Again, you would want to pick a different machine if you have a different machine, obviously, in the machine format that you need. So that basically completes the software section of our dish divider, and we're going to move on now to our construction section and stitching it out. So in this section we're going to be covering the assembly and stitch out instructions of our dish divider project for MDQ. Again, this was created by Rita Gazard. So this again is what the final project is going to look like, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the instructions. So let's go over the materials required for this project. You're going to need some Floriani nylon no-show mesh. The color really doesn't matter. You're going to need some Floriani quilted soft polyester batting, a Floriani heatcraft tool, Floriani squeeze and snip tool or similar sharp small scissors. You're going to need R&K embroidery perfection tape, some Floriani cotton quilting thread for the top and the bobbin. You could also use polyester if you prefer. You need 2 9-inch squares of fabric for each dish divider. This project is for an 8x8, 200 by 200 millimeter minimum hoop size, and you're going to need a heat-proof surface such as a ceramic tile or something similar. Before we get started, it's important to note that in the following directions we're going to be referring to the different colors as they were saved in the design. The color names may appear different on your machine, but the color changes are there to make the machine stop sewing. But an important note is that if you have a multi-needle machine, you're going to need to insert reserve stops for each color. You can use the same thread for all colors, just don't change it. Of course, if you want to change thread colors, you can. Again, if you have a multi-needle machine, you're going to use the magic wand to assign the same color to each color change if you don't want to change colors. So the first step is you're going to cut a piece of nylon no-show mesh large enough to fit your hoop. And you're going to hoop the no-show mesh all by itself. And you want to make sure that it's tightly hooped. You want to go ahead and load the hoop on the machine and load the design into the machine. Go ahead and stitch out the first color, which is blue in the file. And this is going to go ahead and stitch the placement line. Again, remember that it's blue in the file, but whatever color you load on the machine will be what stitches out. Once the stitching is done of the placement line, remove the hoop from the machine, but don't unhoop the project from the hoop. Place fabric on the back of the hoop. Remember, you're going to turn the hoop over. This is the back of the hoop, and secure it as tight as you can using embroidery perfection tape. And you want to center it over the placement lines. Flip the hoop back over and place a 9-inch square piece of the batting on the front of the hoop, aligning it with the fabric on the back. Place fabric over the batting, aligning it with the batting, and secure it using embroidery perfection tape, again as tight as you can, and then return the hoop to the machine. Start up the machine and stitch out the second color, which will stitch out the tack down stitches. Again, the color of this thread doesn't matter because no one's going to see it. Remove the hoop from the machine, but don't unhoop the project from the hoop. Using the squeeze and snip tool, carefully trim away the fabric and the batting from both the front and the back. Trim as close as you can to the tack down stitches, and once you get that done, return the hoop to the embroidery machine. Start up your machine, stitch out the third color, which will stitch out the decorative stitching and the satin stitch. You notice in the picture here we've used Floriani variegated cotton quilting thread for a nice multicolor effect. Remove the hoop from the machine when it's done stitching, but don't unhoop it yet. Leave the design in the hoop and place it over your heat-proof surface. Then, using the heat craft tool and the fine pointed tip, carefully trace along the edge of the stitching to burn away the no-show mesh. If you've used cotton thread, you don't really need to do anything because the temperature's okay for cotton and it won't burn it very easily. But if you use polyester thread, you might melt it. So a trick is to wet the satin stitch on both sides to keep it from melting. A Q-tip dipped in water is great for wetting the edges of that satin stitch. I just want to mention that we've used Floriani nylon no-show mesh here for a reason, and that's because it's made of nylon. Most of the others out there are made of polyester. Polyester will leave a black edge when you burn it, where our nylon no-show mesh will burn away clear. So when you're done, the final dish divider ought to look like this. Pretty cool, huh? So that wraps up our MDQ project, our dish divider for August 2014. I want to thank everybody for attending. In a few days or sooner, the video of this webinar will become available online for you to download. We hope you'll use the video along with the printed PDF instructions to recreate the project at home. And thanks again for attending.